way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning. What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning. Way up she rises, way up she rises, way
Guys, I bring you great news. They have canonized the Slugman. Slug enjoyers, we have won. Woohoo! Let's go!
What a great way to start a predominant podcast about pirates. Slug pirates. And nobody watching this probably even knows what the Slugmen are. I myself just saw them for the first time a minute back. For those of you curious, you can always read what's on screen now. On that note, let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. So, pirates! Today's topic is pirates. Lots of pirates.
Yarn.
And everything you saw in artwork is to be believed. Most romantic. There was nothing bad about the period. They were heroes. They were there to help people. The Robin Hoods of the sea. No murder. No pillaging. No There's nothing there. Don't worry. Things are going to be bleeped out. Don't you yell at me. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I'm not capable of. So go from there. But yeah, no. So we were talking about this today just to continue, and the name we came up with thus far for our podcast is the LAN Party. So you guys can tell us what you think, and we will go from there. But yeah, today's topic, and it is being pretty much at the head of the army is, of course, Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And the reason that we're calling it up there, and we're in character, Vin is Vin. I don't know what Vin's in character is, and Josh. Well, Josh is who you meet when you get shot in a fight with another pirate. So, because he's looking very angelic with the light glowing behind.
I'm in heaven. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's in heaven, and you must have been a really cool pirate to have made it to heaven. I know that things are good at that point. But yes, spearheading this today's topic is obviously pirates and games, mainly, predominantly games, and we want to spearhead that with talk of Black Flag. And now an article was released June 30th of this year, talking about potential, and I say potential because nothing is yet, if I'm not mistaken, gentlemen, confirmed that Ubisoft is remaking Black Flag. So, the publishers are making Black Flag, and it's about fucking time, because Skull and Bones has been in production for, in my mind, it feels like 20 years. So
way too long.
They just released a trailer and had a live band, and then not right after, I was like, nope, we're not doing it. We got cold feet, and we're not giving you guys a spiritual successor to Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But yeah, so I want to see more, but I've been wanting a remake for a long time because it would have been better than the Void of Nothing that we've gotten thus far. But yeah, to spearhead, and I'm going to shut up and let one of you kind of take over from that point, is pirates and gaming. Why do we have so few pirate games, and are there actually more of them out there than people think? I think that would be a good way to kind of start it off. So yeah, Vin, you have this.
Sure.
You have the. Yeah, thank you. I rehearsed this for hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very nervous.
Yeah. I mean, going off of what you're saying about pirates, relevant to the topic, if you're interested in learning more about the Slugman, you should watch our previous episode of the podcast where we delve into dig site. That'll give you a little more context. But wait till we finish this one first, and then you can go watch the first episode. Going into the pirate topic, it's very disappointing that Skull and Bones has taken as long as it has, because I was initially kind of excited for it, but they announced it, I think, 2 years after Black Flag came out. It was in 2015. Josh, look that up. And it's been like 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Long standing in production, and we haven't seen much. And really don't know why. That no game should have taken that long and not had some some kind of fruition at this point.
I always tell the story that I was working at GameStop almost a year ago, and the Game Informer magazines had come out with Skull and Bones on them, and it was my job to advertise Skull and Bones during that time and be like, hey, read about Skull and Bones, it was cool. And at that time, it was supposed to release imminently, and then it didn't. So I sat there and advertised the game to people. It never came out. And that's just fantastic, I think. You never get to see that these days. It's kind of fun. So, yeah.
I think it was announced in 2017, but on Wikipedia it says that following E3 2017, Skull and Bones was nominated for Games Critics Awards, Best Original Game, and Best Online Multiplayer Awards.
What the hell? How?
How?
What? Are we just in some pocket? I guess the East. Yeah.
We're gonna end this podcast, and people are gonna comment, "What are you guys talking about? Skull and Bones has been out since 2017. What game of the year?" We're gonna be like, "What?"
We're all living in a bubble, this pocket society bubble from a Stephen King novel or something. It makes no sense. We just, oh well, I guess that explains why I've not played it. Then it was all a ruse, and we live a lie in the Twilight Zone. But no.
So when you talk about Black Flag, it's hard to separate Skull and Bones. It's also hard to separate Assassin's Creed Rogue. It feels like Ubisoft has been chasing that Black Flag allure for a little while now.
Yes. And I did finally play Rogue per your recommendation, Event, and was not disappointed. Actually,
you're looking very Shea Cormac-esque right now. Actually, funnily enough, with the red and the black, that is his getup. So
I was kind of just trying to mimic the several pistols on the look, and literally, this is my belt, and I just tied it around my shoulder. I was like, I'll just slip in the pistols because there's no way that actually works that comfortably. You also notice that the coolness factor of Assassin's Creed characters is they're all wearing fitted clothes, but in reality, Pirates' clothes were just loose as shit. It was so hard. They'd have to steal shit that fit them, and they did, but I guess it doesn't matter because it does look phenomenal, and that's. I would like to actually bring up a point of maybe one of the things that's spoken about less often, and I thought about this today at work, why Assassin's Creed Black Flag is kind of heralded as one of the greatest, I would argue, pirate games, pirate video games, and I think one of those reasons actually has to do with the word proportions. And what I mean by that is, you have Sea of Thieves, which is obviously a success, and it has stood the test of time. I've tried it. It's not my jam, but I do think it's cool. I think it's great. Sid Meier's Pirates. There are mods that you can use in games such as Total War. Empire Total War specifically took place during the 17 and 1800s, so you could mod the game to play as pirates, but no game really captured the whole combat, the romanticized, almost borderline fantasy golden age of piracy like Black Flag did. It was like it accidentally was a pirate game, but it had assassin in the title because, the assassins really kind of took a back seat to this game, and it still worked. But back to proportions. What I mean is the character sizes, the levels, a lot of different games don't go by those same proportions, and I literally mean 3D modeling, 3D models in games. And I thought it was fantastic. The ships, the distance, the backdrop that you guys can see on screen right now, and I'll full screen it temporarily. You can see the fleet in the distance when you can actually see the fleet firing at the main character. And Ed Kenway is also a likable vagabond of a character. And, the Kenway arc and the family. That was one thing, but I really wanted to point out proportions because I don't think it gets called out enough. I think this game was so great because the characters seemed to fit. And as somebody who plays games, I did not like the look of Skull and Bones, especially when I saw pink and borderline camouflage rainbow ships in the ocean. But when you play Black Flag, and I'm not trying to gatekeep that, but it was it was fantasy, and it was very over romanticized regarding the pirates. But the proportions and the collar, and I think that they still paid at least homage to actual frigates and crafts and characters at the time. It's just bloomed up and fantasized and romanticized, and that's what makes the game so fucking fun. I think that's one of actually its key elements. Okay, my soapbox about proportions is done.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think proportion is a really good word for it. I find it funny that you bring up the pink stuff because I have nothing against silly cosmetics in games if they fit the aesthetic and the intention of the game. But I will say, and I know everybody in here agrees with me, after seeing the announcement the other day that Nicki Minaj is coming to Call of Duty, joining the likes of Homelander,
Yeah.
I am sick and tired of live service games and cosmetics that just feel like what a board of executives thinks Zoomers want. And to an extent, as a Zoomer, yeah, I get it, they do. But in my pirate game, it just doesn't, that's not a combination that I think really interlocks well, you know?
Right.
And what I like about Black Flag in comparison to that is it wasn't really afraid to show pirates who were criminals as like kind of regular people with ambitions and, you know, driving motivations. They had hopes, they had fears, they had flaws. Like, these were real tangible people in history, and I think it does that better than any other Assassin's Creed game because there's so much extensive lore about the pirate personas of these people, but we don't have a lot on who they really were. I was reading about Blackbeard the other day in prep for this, and we basically know nothing about him. Even his name, Edward Teach or Edward Thatch, was probably adopted so that he didn't tarnish his family name, and I find that fascinating. I think he's a great character in Black Flag as well. One of the best ones in that game.
Yeah.
All the emotional through lines are just so amazing. I can't wait to see if they are remastering it, how they handle updating these characters and updating the game's like gameplay flow and stuff. And I think you could definitely improve Black Flag. But the story is, and I would hope that they wouldn't touch that whatsoever.
I really agree. Like the story for Black Flag was fantastic, and you know, and thank you for carrying on for like not only the proportions with the romanticism, but like the visuals of the game are gorgeous. And then as next gen consoles came out, because this game is pretty aged now, it's respectably, it's got years behind it now. And I remember when they first released it for the next generation consoles, and everything from, you know, character touch-ups to textures on your ship to the smoke and the disorientation effect that they added to the game. That was a real fucking thing in like a line of muskets and organized warfare, or as some people may call it, like gentleman's warfare. But there was nothing gentlemanly about this, and it felt really fun to kind of be the bad guys. But when you're in that perspective, there's really no good or bad. It's just, you know, you start off as this character who kind of has nothing. He does have more of a character than a lot of the commercials did a pretty good job of not spoiling. I mean, you knew he was a hard ass, you knew he was a badass, but he didn't have the same stoic nature as other protagonists in the series, and I liked that. I liked that he was kind of, like I said, a vagabond, a criminal. You know, he was a buccaneer, which, you know, they were typically sailors for hire. I don't know, you can correct me if you want to, but we'll just talk about the broad spectrum of that for anybody watching. And I like that his first encounter with an assassin was one that really wasn't that reputable, and it kind of showed that in their own respect, the pirates were legendary in their own era. And like you said, with Edward Thatch, with Blackbeard, almost serving as like the father figure to the protagonist in a way. And I'm gonna be real with you. We talked about it before, so I guess I've already been real with you. The story kind of punches you in the gut later on when you start to. The game reminds you that all of these legendary figures in history were mortal, and it reminds you in a pretty brutal way when your character goes on a huge bender. Like, he just goes on a binge and is drunk. Even in the simulation Abstergo loading screen, he's like flopping all over himself because his friends and people we know are all dead or imprisoned or fucking lost. And it's like, what do you do? And but I liked that, though. I thought it was a necessary ode to the fact that, you know, these men of fortune, men and women of fortune, eventually met their end that way. And I thought it was one of the best games to really carry on this spiritual nature of what we see in cinema as the romantic viewpoint of the golden age of piracy. And I didn't think I was even going to like the game that much, because I was like, there's no way they'll be able to. Never played a game that I liked on this level, and I really wish there were more like it, or at least trying to. There are indie games, but it's hard to find people that want to play, and it's just way too micromanagey. So I don't know.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But
yeah, and I really feel like touching on that romantic thing and him being immortal. The fact that all these historical figures lived such dangerous lives, and it was kind of almost these brief flashes of like what could have been. You know, like these are people that did a lot of legendary things in a very short amount of time because they all died very quickly. Like they didn't have long-lasting careers. They didn't live until old age. They were living a dangerous life that ended up getting them killed. And there's a romance to that. There's something really mysterious and fascinating about it. But it's very depressing, too.
It is.
I mean, you see how the deaths of certain characters affect Edward, and you see that he's realizing that this life of chasing fortune is just going to lead to him dying like everybody else. I love Adewale, too, in the game for that reason, is because unlike the other pirates, Adewale kind of finds the assassins and sees more spiritual enlightenment from that than Edward does. So you see his path kind of fork a little bit, and him and Adewale, who are very close, go separate ways and then reconverge near the end when they realize that, you know, this lifestyle is not sustainable.
Yeah, and they, you know, to touch on that too, Van, they pay a really good homage to the Adewale's farewell to Edward as his captain, because when Adewale becomes his own captain, and honestly, kudos for them for having the courage to have a campaign like Adewale's. Like, fun as hell. He's brutal. He is so, but there's this righteous fury in his campaign to free his people and people like him, and I really actually enjoyed that. I enjoyed that almost as much as the main campaign. The only downside is that it was short-lived, and I enjoyed that. And then you can actually find, I think, the wreckage of the Jackdaw in Adewale's campaign, and you can, and it like, and he'll talk about it. So I just feel like this game should really be spoken about more, and I know people have talked about it. They've referenced it when talking about the kind of slope towards Skull and Bones, and we've got about 3.5 minutes left, so I'll stop hogging it. But I just really wanted to touch up and kind of bring more awareness to this game. I still don't think there's enough. I still don't think enough people talk about it. You know, we're fans of it, like, but Joshua over here, I think I should put him on the stage, because I know he'll have something to say about it, even if it's just visual art wise. I know he'll have something to say about it. You just got to give him a chance to talk.
I was just thinking that I hope that they don't, or I hope that they listen to people when they remastered AC3.
Yeah.
Because visually, they kind of ruined it in some ways. I think there's a few spots that look better, but very similar to like Combat Evolved Anniversary, they ruined the aesthetic of some of the specific set pieces with lighting changes and various atmosphere changes. So I think, with being one of the more popular AC games, that they probably should be careful. And I haven't played it in 10 years, probably.
Right.
Actually, it came out in 2014. 2013. So yeah, the last time I played it was 2014, so like 9 years ago. So my frame of reference is certain memorable moments and set pieces that I really like, that if they change them, that'll just be disappointing, I think.
Yeah. So, I'd love for you to chime in on this, Josh, and Euclid, you as well. Were you both just as impressed with how good the water still looks in that game as I was? Because it's crazy to me how, like, 10 years later, that game still has some of the best looking water I've seen, like, even compared to some modern titles. Halo Infinite. And the water is just stunning looking.
Yes, when you have, like, that to me is so funny. When nearly 10 years later, have water that look older than 10 years.
Yeah.
I find that bizarre. So I know that there's a lot that can go on behind the scenes, but these are big studios that are backing projects with a lot of money, and I feel like there's not really an excuse, I guess.
There's not.
Water still looks like it's from 2007.
Another game, it was released, I believe, in 2009. Total War fans out there, correct me. I'm actually playing the opening campaign to Black Flag right now, but I got it turned down so we can hear each other. Empire Total War. You know, it had pirates in it and everything, but the water in that game was fucking gorgeous. Now, I played it and streamed it for you guys, and you've seen it. It was ahead.
Yeah.
There's really no excuse. What it comes down to is, I think, too many things and resources with game development studios, because you can't just solely blame them, is that they're focused on the wrong thing. Like, they're clearly focused on something, and they need to do it fast. It's like you're wanting a $100 steak to be served through a McDonald's drive-thru. I really feel like that's a part of the problem. It doesn't work like that. Games are harder to make now. They require more. Like, that's a common thing. Game cost has went up several times in our lifetime. Usually by like what, $10 increments. So like, you know, 50 to 60, now 70. Like, it's always went up. It used to be less than that, but we kind of went, and then we didn't complain. All of that just points to the fact that it takes more resources to make these games. It also helps when you know people that, if they aren't game developers or graphic designers, they know people that are, i.e. you two, and it's like, that's really opened my eyes to, you know, the effort it actually takes to play these games. Instead of just being a mindless consumer, which is kind of fun to do sometimes, right? It's also nice to see things from their perspective and go, you know what? I can wait another year or two. I like anticipation. It's like holidays. My favorite time is before it happens. I like the anticipation of a new game release. But when it releases, I'm like, fuck, I can't look forward to it anymore. So,
I mean,
I'm okay with waiting.
I'm absolutely tired of paying $60 for a game that comes unfinished.
Yeah.
That's true.
Personally. Like,
yes. Sorry.
I'm not... I think I posted a Twitter about it many months ago now, and said something. I replied to somebody about it and just said that a lot of these AAA titles that have come out recently, I've waited until they were like below 30, some of them as low as 15 to buy them, because I refuse to buy something that comes out that's buggy or has not had the amount of time that it required, you know?
Right.
And it's not malicious. I'm not doing that to stick it to them, but I'm just not going to spend $60 or $70 on a product that doesn't work properly.
Right.
So
you kind of have to boycott AAA games. We've
it's
talked
like the
about
same
it before.
thing. Yeah, the new Star Wars with Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
Like, its PC port was atrocious as far as optimization and whatnot goes. I don't know if they fixed it since then, if it's any better, but like, I feel like a lot of games are being released 6 months to a year before they should be.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yes.
I think consumers in general are kind of tired, and this is to tie back into Black Flag, they're tired of the live service experience where you're paying for the commitment that a game will eventually be what it should be at launch. And I think that's not an original thought, people have said that, but that's what makes things like Black Flag so special, is that it's a game that launched for $60 and you got a comprehensive campaign experience out of it. You got multiplayer too. AC4's multiplayer is not like groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something. It worked, and I think that people want more premium single-player experiences. But like, above all else, people want products that satisfy them and fulfill their time and their money. Like, when you look at something like Valheim launching for, what was it, $30, right?
20.
And people pay that for a single skin in a video game. That's the sort of thing that baffles me. More power to you if you're purchasing something that makes you happy, but why spend that money on something that makes you happy for 5 seconds as opposed to committing that money to something that, you know...
Your audio went out. Just for a second, your audio went out.
Okay, well, I was just saying, why commit to that? Why commit that money to something that doesn't respect the value of your dollar, essentially? It's saying that, you know, like, your money... I don't know how to put this. It's like, pay for things that feel like they appreciate the fact that you're paying. That's all I think I'm saying. So,
No, yeah.
Black Flag is one of these things.
I'm very patient. I waited 4 years to play Far Cry 5, and I got it for $15, including all of the DLC, everything. $15.
I would just to harken on what you said, and Josh, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a really good point that should be spoken about more. What I was saying is like the value of the game going up doesn't bother me if it's worth it. If it actually, like you said, so you guys just cleared the air with that one, and that's true. If it doesn't respect your money, if it's just they expect you to mindlessly consume. But what's really bad is this weird subculture of just, I don't know, people are, it's a forced positivity thing when a game doesn't do well. It's like, I don't like people being negative. And we've seen that in Halo. We've seen that in Assassin's Creed. I've seen it in Total War. To be fair, I like Total War in all realms because it went fantasy for a while. People were pissed that it wasn't historical. And now I'm a big Warhammer fan. So I was like, well, that's cool that it worked out that way. But the point I'm making is that, you know, I don't mind paying more if it's fantastic. And if it costs more and you can justify that it costs more, again, not something I'll probably grumble about it for a minute, like, well, times they are a change, and then we'll get over it and then we'll move on. But yeah, the fact that the quality has drastically reduced itself, it's been reduced, I should say, or it's been neglected, and then it's like, well, here's the price though, because that's just the way it goes. No, something is really wrong in the video game industry. Something is really fucking wrong, and we don't know. We can't actually see behind the scenes of what's going on, but there's a lack of something. It's almost like there's less people people wanting to do it because they're getting burned, or again, the game, it just takes more resources and they don't have the time. By the way, Edward Kenway's teeth are like perfect white.
Yeah, I remember people talking about that when the game came out. The white teeth.
Dude, it's got great chompers.
I don't know how he managed to avoid getting scurvy, but good for him. Yeah.
Oh, for real, yeah. But no, it's not worth it. So what do? We play old games. We play Master Chief Collection. We play a lot of indie games. We play horror games. Like Phasmophobia came out of nowhere and had no right to be as sexy as a game as it is. It is awesome. One of the funnest games I've ever played. I know we intend to play it more in the future. A lot of indie games. I mean, there's a pirate game called Blackwake that, although it's hard to find a game and the micromanagement can be a little... The best thing about Black Flag is you can just jump in and play it. As long as you got through the prologue, it didn't matter where you were or what you did. There was constant things to do. And if you beat the game, I mean, you could just continue to play it. That was the thing. It wasn't over. Like, you weren't done. And it's always worth the replay. High replay value. And it just, I don't know. It's disappointing that a lot of different, I would say, developers are in such a troubling time with their titles. And you could say Halo Infinite, but that is a good example. How long did we wait for it? How long was it in development? And then everything that was advertised in one of the best Halo trailers I've ever seen wasn't shown. And that's like the exact opposite of like Halo Wars 2, which I want to bring it up because I think it deserves it as far as like getting the support it deserved. Not only did it pay homage to both, I think, a little bit of new and old, especially like Bungie era stuff, but it also, God, it didn't disappoint. It came out and it actually paid homage to its trailer. Not a lot of games do that, and you end up going, oh, I can't wait for this, and it's like, well, the game's probably not going to be as good, but I hope it eventually is. Games releasing broken, like Josh said, it's unacceptable. And if you need to take twice as long, fucking do it, because I'm just going to keep playing old games until you do.
On that topic, actually, I just thought of something. Sons of the Forest is a good example of a early access title.
Yes.
That one thing I like about it, and this is a criticism of early access in general, is a lot of early access titles come out, and then instead of releasing more content, they go into bug fix mode, and then they go months and months and months of just fixing bugs. But the vast majority of people, and you guys can call me out if you feel I'm wrong here, don't care about bug fixing as much as they care about new content. And if you bug fix too much, you kill your game. And an example of that is Valheim. Okay? Valheim took way too long to do a content update after they had that huge boom when they initially released. And they lost so much of their player base because of that. And it wasn't just because they were bug fixing, they also had problems with just like, I think, management issues, and they didn't have a lot of people working for them. But, like, I think Phasmophobia is another good example of that. Like, they bug fix, but they add new content often, you know? But that's something, to me, like, personally, if your early access game is just constantly bug fixing all the time, you lose people. And I don't, like, I'd rather have new content than just constant maintenance, essentially.
Yeah. Honestly, Valheim's success is, I feel like, part of its detriment. Because ultimately what happened is that they had a very ambitious roadmap that they made the mistake of showing publicly when the game launched and was so successful, and didn't really end up hitting many of those until very recently. I mean, I think the game's at a point now where about half of that roadmap has been fulfilled. Some of it's probably never coming, and some of it will come in the future. But there was a while where the game came out, and it was like dead silence, except for every few months, the occasional like picture of a new pickaxe being modeled or something. And I think people got the impression of like, hey, you guys made a lot of money. Can't you hire more people so that these content updates can come out sooner? But the thing is, Valheim's a satisfying experience on its own. If they hadn't released a roadmap, no one would have expected it to be a quote-unquote live service game. But by setting those expectations, when you make a live service game, people stop giving you boundaries for safety. Like, you can't just say, well, you know, it's taken a while. If you call your game live service and you don't actually deliver that live service, people view it as dead. You know, versus just releasing a premium experience, charging for it, and then being like, this is the experience. There's no additional expectations. Here's what you're getting. You know, I would have rather a complete Halo game at launch than the promise of potentially a good Halo game. And Halo 5 was the same thing, but it took way less time for it to reach the point of feeling complete. We still don't have Gridfall. We just got Infection. I know we harp on this every time we talk.
Right.
But it deserves to be said because that is the biggest AAA example that I've seen of promising something, promising a complete experience, and then having to delay because you couldn't reach that experience, and then launching and still not hitting that. I mean, if the game had come out this year, it probably still... Yeah. All that to say, going back to Black Flag, that's why Skull and Bones, I feel like, is not resonating with people, and ultimately probably why they're pivoting toward a Black Flag remaster, because they recognize that people love Black Flag. It has kind of the same cultural mainstay as the Ezio trilogy does, and they're like, well, people aren't interested in the live service pirate game, let's go back to what worked, you know?
Well, that's fine, too, because everybody's got this massive erection for live service, and I'm not really feeling it. I don't really want or care. It doesn't resonate with me because when you get disappointed by it more than once, it's like, okay, well, can we go back to? I mean, you can go back to games mostly having linear experiences, and at least I'm going to get what I paid for.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be negative. It just.
I hope that we see more of a growing divide on that. It does seem like everyone is interested in live service games and every game being Fortnite, but. I don't know, there are a lot of people that are tired of it, like we are.
Yeah.
I think people are definitely at the point where they're done with the battle passes, that's for sure. I think every game, like if people were very upset that the Suicide Squad game has a battle pass, I think people are done with that as a monetization.
That, and like if you keep doing celebrity cameos, but celebrity characters in Call of Duty, what you're gonna do is people are going to get jaded with that. If you keep adding the newest rapper or the newest TV star to your games, there will always be people that eat it up, but you're just going to get a more jaded audience each time you announce something like that.
I mean, I'll be the
yeah, and I feel like oh, sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
No. I was gonna say I'll be the first to admit that there are times and places for that, but it gets old. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of like when, you know, a while back you would hear like people saying that they want their favorite content creator to be in a game as a voice, and I was like, that's gross. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Because it honestly would just make the community feel lessened, like there are the haves and the have-nots, and that was a bad idea. And it kind of feels that way with celebrities doing this and being in these game commercials. Like, I don't really care. They don't fucking play Call of Duty. They are literally too busy being a part of the elite to do that. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, kind of would like for them to stay in their lane, to be honest with you. But that's just me.
Yeah. I was going to say I can think of 2 examples of the celebrity thing done well. The first one's Halo 5, having Buck as an announcer and a voice back. That's a great way to monetize a celebrity because Nathan Fillion is beloved as a celebrity in pop culture, but he's also played a Halo character and is very ingrained, like, in the Halo community. People like Nathan Fillion a lot, you know, and you're incorporating him into the game in a way that feels natural and doesn't break immersion. Yep. The other thing I think of most prominently is Lance Reddick. Rest in peace. Genuinely, what an amazing, amazing guy.
Yeah.
People loved him because he played Destiny. He posted about it constantly. He'd link up with random people and just be playing the game and enjoying it. That's a celebrity in a video game that I'm so totally okay with because you could just feel the passion he had for it.
Yeah.
You could tell he loved the game, he loved his character, and he loved the community. That was totally fine with me, and I was so happy to see Lance Reddick in Destiny and Horizon. Like, the man was a saint in that regard. But Nicki Minaj and COD, fellas,
I don't understand it.
Why?
Yeah, like there's no beef there, and nor why would there be? I mean, she's made it, and I would argue that there was hard work put into that, but it's so out of place. Like, and then there's Nicki Minaj. Y'all know Nicki Minaj is. She's in COD. I'm like, this is fucking cringe. I want to die. Like, it's gross. I'm not saying she's gross. I'm saying it's gross that she's in the COD ads. And I never really was a fan of the whole, celebrities are in it, so now you got to get it because extra hype. And money's going towards hiring celebrities, but the games are still released that way.
Yeah. Yep.
Just saying.
I do wonder. We'll probably never know, or it'll be something like an article written in 10 years. But it makes me wonder how many of the devs working on COD are sitting there thinking this is a good idea, and is this because we know in some cases the studio can force or the publisher can force something, and sometimes it's the studio's decision. So, like, a good example of that is when everyone was blaming EA for Battlefront 2's woes.
Yes.
Those were decisions that were made by DICE that caused the problems with Battlefront 2. It was DICE's fault, and a lot of people don't want to accept that, and they just want to blame the bad EA publisher. But DICE was fulfilling quotas, and the decisions that they made to do that were what caused the issues. It's similar with 343. It's not all Microsoft's fault that Halo Infinite has problems. Part of it is they should have delayed the game, but the people at 343, the higher-ups, are making decisions that are poor for the game, and that's just a fact. But I do wonder, like, working on COD and you being assigned or being told that you're putting Nicki Minaj or you're putting characters from The Boys in your military shooter. Who's making that decision, and how many people there?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Exactly.
I
don't get it.
Just weird. I could care less, to be honest with you. And I want to point out that the reason that we started off this podcast, because, I mean, we all at least have enough. I know that me and Vin are absolutely ate up with Black Flag, but there's a reason that we brought up Black Flag as an arguable, fine example of a success. It has earned the right for me to go out of my way as a grown-ass man and dress this way. because I like it. I think about it. I think about its soundtrack. I think about its characters. I think about how methodical and things were thought out with the game. And I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but the fact that more games don't achieve this, like, I get so ate up with the whole forced positivity and you guys are entitled. Yeah, you're right. I am entitled. When I pay for something, I'm entitled to it. That's what they don't get. There's this bad reputation given towards like ignorant and entitlement. Ignorant means you don't know something. It doesn't mean you're stupid. And entitlement means that you paid something, so you are a party to or granted a title of something. Like you are entitled to it. That is not a bad thing, but it has this negative connotation that people have given it, and it just blows my mind that people are like, yeah, they're entitled. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing? And they're like, well, you're just entitled. No, I'm not entitled. I'm one of the few people that is telling these people that they're doing shit wrong. They're doing stuff wrong. And it's not all negative. I'm having a blast playing this right now, to be honest with you. But it has earned that reputation. It has earned the reputation.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think that one of the reasons it's earned that reputation is because you have a lot of the people online that attack developers and are really nasty.
Yeah.
So when you get legitimate criticism, people will lump it into that if they don't like what you're saying, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't, like, just because there's people out there that are incredibly rude or worse to people working on these titles, I don't think that at all should mean that we shouldn't express our distaste for the way that games are being treated by publishers and by some of the devs themselves in some cases, at least higher ups, I mean. So
I think that's spoken like you mean it because you do. I mean, it's, yeah, there's no hate for the, like, I've seen the opposite side of the spectrum where it's not forced positivity, but they're like, they messed up this game. And then death threats are sent out. Like, who the fuck? Like, it's insane. But there is definitely a problem. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but that is a sign that things are bad. And I'm not saying that that should turn, you should know when your games have, if you are intricately woven as a developer, or if you actually really do want something to be successful, you need to, like, it's almost like there's not a lot of pride in the AAA gaming world nowadays. Like, what I mean by that is looking back and going, fuck, people still play this game? It came out in 2014 or 2009 or, God forbid, Halo 2. I love it, 2004. You know, like, they earned it. And Halo 2 was kind of an accident, but it was an accident that took effort, and it was just, you know, to see it. So the reason we're calling this out today is, yes, pirates, and, you know, but there's more to it than that. I just got shot by that fucker. There's more to it than that. Like, when the reputation is earned, it speaks for itself. If something has been, how do I put this, successful, it doesn't need to defend itself because people will defend it for it.
Yeah.
I think that's connected to an old saying. If something is good, it doesn't need to defend itself. Just we'll defend it because we know it's good.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of where we're at. We're basically at 40 minutes now, believe it or not, guys. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to say. I've definitely said more than my fair share of peace, so.
Well, I think the celebrity topic offers us a pretty good pivot to just touch on, related to the concept of celebrity voice actors in video games and whatnot. How on God's green earth have Alan Tudyk, Adam Baldwin, what's her face who plays Veronica Dare? Is it?
I don't know.
Gosh, what's her name? Trisha Helfer.
Yeah.
How have the cast of ODST, other than Nathan Fillion, not been asked to come back and play their characters again? You could have them in an audio drama like Hunt the Truth, a game, a show, I don't care. We're watching Firefly now, and I'm seeing it for the first time, is why that we're bringing this up, and like, whoa, these guys are so great and so charismatic.
Seriously.
I don't, like, Dutch is one of my favorite characters in Halo. he's so brass and funny, and Adam Baldwin just plays these characters that have such a snark to them that you love to kind of dislike him a little bit, you know. And Dutch is such a different character too, because he's this wholesome, like, he's religious, right? He's like he's a God-fearing like guy, and then you have Gretchen from the books, who's awesome too, and is a Spartan 4 now as well. It just baffles me that they haven't taken an opportunity. I did spot you showing Firefly Eagles, by the way, the DVD box set.
You're good.
I did see that. I'm just making sure you know.
You're good.
Such a great cast. I don't get it. They need to bring them back. That's what I want to say. Like, they need to come back.
Yeah, I think that using a game with the success that Black Flag has is a great way to kind of segue into something that ultimately is still a pretty big problem. And, you know, there's something like you try not to gatekeep, and you obviously there's a lot of feelings of nostalgia and goodness that we may never feel again in certain games or certain times, you know, because we were younger as well. But I still feel the way that I feel about games. I've played games ever since I could remember. Wasn't always good at them, and I'm certainly worse now than I was when I was younger. But as I got older, I cared less about skill-based games and multiplayer and more about story. And I feel like that is where, for the most part, there are obviously examples otherwise, like Elden Ring. But for the most part, it feels like a lot of developers have really just tried to skimp on story, and they don't see the value in it, and that's hurt them. Like, a good example could even be Battlefield with war stories. A lot of people say they don't care about them, but there are more people that actually want a return of that than the internet would let you believe. People talk about it all the time on forums. They talk about the quality of games, and ultimately it just adds off to an already pissed off, you know, post-COVID populace. And so, I mean, this is what people do to entertain themselves, to distract themselves. And when it lacks in quality and it feels like we're paying even more for something that, I don't know, it's like it's hollow. And I'm not trying to sound cryptic, but, you know, they're not what they used to be. Sometimes that rings true. And I hate that it rings true because it can sound so cringe when you say it out loud to yourself. But, you know, it feels sometimes like they don't make it like they used to. And that's because they can't make it like they used to, which means that the industry needs to adapt if the games are going to be made and be successful at the same time. Because right now, it's not cutting it. But Black Flag is fucking awesome. So, that's what I'll close with. You guys have anything else you want to say? I don't know. There's nothing else that can be said. It's kind of like, it feels like a dead horse at times, but I think talking about it is good because once you do, you realize how many other people feel the same way. So. Yeah. All right, well, I think that's kind of where we cut it, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, LAN Party. That's our podcast. We're going to continue to release episodes. Some may actually involve talking about the games themselves, but this was kind of a better way to bring up more points, more opportunities, and who knows, maybe somebody will actually heed ours and others' advice, because at the end of the day, we love video games. We want to see them succeed. I have no reason to want any game, even if it's not something I'd want to play. There's no reason I want to see it fail. So, and there's a way to avoid that, and that's to listen to people that buy them. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, on that note, guys, you all have a good night. Thank you for tuning into our pirate-themed video that ended up segueing into a video game conspiracy. I am Euclid, and this is Vin and Josh, and we'll see you all in the next episode of LAN Party. Bye now.